Your attention is not broken. It has been trained to be weak. Every scroll, every notification, every unfinished thought has conditioned your mind to quit early, avoid silence, and mistake stimulation for progress. This audiobook is not about productivity tricks or motivation. It is about rebuilding your attention span from the ground up through discipline, systems, and deliberate silence. If you can control your attention, you control your life. And if you cannot, nothing else you chase will matter. This is the process to take it back. Chapter 1. Stop blaming distraction and take control. Distraction is not your enemy. It is your excuse. If distraction were the problem, everyone would fail equally. They do not. Some people produce relentlessly in the same noisy, chaotic world you live in. They are not stronger. They are not special. They are structured. The mind does not hold focus by accident. It holds focus when it is commanded, when it is given rules, when it is given boundaries, when it is given a system it cannot escape. Most people do the opposite. They notice distraction and argue with it. They complain about it. They fight it emotionally. That never works. You have a choice. You can keep blaming distraction, or you can take control of the conditions that allow it to exist. That's the key. Distraction thrives in unstructured environments. An open phone, an open browser, an open schedule, an open-ended task with no start and no finish. In those conditions, the mind drifts, not because it is weak, because it is uncommanded. Your attention follows the path of least resistance. Always. If distraction is easy, it will take it. If focus is protected, it will stay. It's not about willpower, it's about discipline. Specifically, structural discipline. You don't fix distraction by trying harder. You fix it by removing choices. High performers understand this. They do not sit down and hope to focus. They engineer focus before they begin. They decide in advance what time work starts, what tools are allowed, what distractions are eliminated, what the finish line looks like. They do not negotiate with themselves mid-task. There is nothing to debate. You don't need their permission to do this. You don't need approval. You don't need motivation. You need rules. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. Never rely on intention. Rely on environment. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. Say it again. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. If your phone is on your desk, you will check it. If notifications are enabled, they will interrupt you. If your workspace allows escape, your mind will escape. This is not a moral failure. It is mechanics. You don't need stronger intentions. You need fewer exits. High performers remove exits before work begins. Phones out of reach. Notifications off. Single-purpose tools only. They make distraction inconvenient. Focus becomes the default. That's the key. Most people try to be disciplined inside a chaotic environment. That is backwards. Discipline is built into the system, not summoned on demand. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. And what you repeat is shaped by your environment. Here is the second rule. Rule 2. Start times are non-negotiable. The mind resists beginning more than it resists working. Once started, momentum carries you. Without a fixed start, resistance wins. High performers do not wait until they feel ready. They begin at a predetermined time. Every day, no discussion. You have a choice. You can decide when to start once, or you can decide every day. One decision costs less. Choose a start time. Protect it. Honor it regardless of mood. It's not about motivation, it's about consistency, which leads to the next rule. Rule 3. Reduce task ambiguity. The mind avoids unclear work. If the task is vague, distraction feels productive by comparison. Work on this is not a task. Write 500 words is a task. Study is not a task. Complete 10 problems is a task. High performers define the next physical action before they sit down. There is no confusion. There is no hesitation. Clarity commands attention. That's the key. Distraction is often a symptom of unclear demands. When the brain doesn't know what success looks like, it looks for relief. You remove distraction by defining completion, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 4. Limit inputs during output. You cannot consume and create at the same time. Input fractures attention. Output requires containment. High performers separate these modes. They do not scroll while working. They do not check messages quickly. They do not allow small interruptions. Because small interruptions train big weaknesses. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. Every interruption reinforces the habit of escape. Every protected block reinforces control. You have a choice. Train escape or train focus. There is no neutral. Now understand this. You are not addicted to distraction. You are conditioned by repetition. That matters because conditioning can be reversed. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat, which leads to the most important rule in this chapter. Rule 5. Build systems you don't have to believe in. Belief is unreliable. Emotion fluctuates. Systems remain. High performers do not ask, "Do I feel focused today?" They follow the system regardless. Same start time, same environment, same rules. Focus becomes automatic because deviation is inconvenient. That's the key. Most people fail because they attempt radical change instead of structural adjustment. They want dramatic transformation. They chase intensity. Intensity burns out. Repetition compounds. It's not about effort, it's about design. Small, repeatable actions performed in a controlled environment outperform bursts of motivation every time. You don't need to overhaul your life today. You need to fix the structure you repeat tomorrow. Remove one distraction. Fix one start time. Clarify one task. Then repeat. Authority over attention is earned through consistency, not force. And once you stop blaming distraction, something becomes clear. Your attention was never stolen. It was trained, which means it can be retrained. In the next chapter, we will confront the deeper problem, not distraction itself, but why your attention has been trained to quit early and how to reverse that conditioning permanently. Chapter 2. Your attention has been trained to quit early. Your attention did not disappear. It was shortened, not by accident, by repetition. Every time you stop a task before it is finished, something is trained. Every time you interrupt effort, something is reinforced. Not consciously, neurologically. Modern life rewards interruption. Quick checks, quick hits, quick exits. Completion is optional. Stimulation is constant. And the brain adapts. You have a choice. You can continue living in systems that reward escape, or you can retrain your tolerance for effort. That's the key. Most people believe their attention span is fixed. It is not. It is conditioned. What you repeatedly abandon, you weaken. Say it again. What you repeatedly abandon, you weaken. When you leave a task unfinished, the brain learns that discomfort is temporary and avoidable. When you interrupt yourself, the brain learns that focus is negotiable. Over time, your tolerance for effort shrinks. Not because you are incapable, because you have practiced quitting. This is not a moral judgment. It is mechanics. Consider the phone. You sit down to work. The task becomes difficult, unclear, slow. You feel friction. Then you check your phone, just for a moment. That moment is not harmless. You just taught your brain something important. You taught it that discomfort is a signal to escape. You taught it that relief is one tap away. And the brain remembers. The next time discomfort appears, it will demand the same exit. Not because you are weak, because you trained it. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. That's why attention feels fragile. It is not fragile. It is undertrained. High performers understand this. They do not allow frequent exits because they know exits reduce endurance. They protect continuity. Here is the rule. Rule 1. Completion matters more than speed. Modern culture celebrates fast starts and quick pivots. High performers value finishes. A task completed slowly strengthens attention more than a task abandoned quickly. Because the brain learns one lesson above all others: stay. It's not about efficiency, it's about discipline. If you rush and abandon, you reinforce quitting. If you move steadily and finish, you reinforce endurance. You don't need their permission to slow down. You need completion, which leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Never interrupt effort mid-resistance. Resistance is the training stimulus. The moment you want to stop is the moment the work begins. If you interrupt at that moment, you weaken yourself. If you stay, you strengthen capacity. What you repeatedly abandon, you weaken. High performers know this. They do not stop when it becomes uncomfortable. They stop when the task is complete or the time block ends. There is a difference. Stopping at a pre-decided endpoint trains discipline. Stopping at discomfort trains avoidance. You have a choice. Choose your endpoint in advance. Honor it. That's the key. Now understand something critical. The brain does not distinguish between productive interruption and wasted interruption. An interruption is an interruption. Checking a message, opening a tab, switching tasks briefly. All of it trains fragmentation, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 3. One task, one block, no overlap. Multitasking is not a skill. It is divided attention. Divided attention shortens focus. Always. High performers isolate tasks. They work in contained blocks. One objective, one direction. They do not stack effort. They sequence it. Because focus is fragile during training. You don't build endurance by constantly stopping the exercise. You don't build attention by constantly switching targets. It's not about intelligence, it's about structure. Your environment trains you more than your intentions, which means training attention requires repetition under controlled conditions. Here is the next rule. Rule 4. Increase difficulty slowly. Most people try to force long focus sessions immediately. They fail. Then they conclude something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong. You don't run a marathon without conditioning. You don't hold focus for hours without training. High performers increase duration gradually. They start with manageable blocks. They complete them consistently. Completion comes first. Duration comes later. That's the key. If you train depth before duration, attention grows naturally, which leads to the most important principle in this chapter. Rule 5. Never practice quitting. Quitting is a behavior. Behaviors are reinforced through repetition. If you quit every time something becomes boring, slow, or uncomfortable, you become excellent at quitting. If you stay, even briefly, you become capable of staying longer. What you repeatedly abandon, you weaken. What you repeatedly complete, you strengthen. This applies to reading, thinking, writing, problem solving. Attention does not fail randomly. It fails at the exact point you have trained it to fail. That should not discourage you. It should clarify the solution. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer escapes, which brings us back to systems. High performers design environments that prevent premature quitting. No phone access, no tab switching, no mid-task input. Not because they are extreme, because they understand training. You don't need their permission to train seriously. You need rules. Here is a simple system. Decide the task. Decide the duration. Remove exits. Finish. Every day. Not perfectly. Consistently. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. And repetition is what rebuilt attention. Understand this. Your attention span is not short. It is unfinished. You have trained yourself to leave early. Now you will train yourself to stay. That's the work. In the next chapter, we will introduce the most uncomfortable tool in this entire process: silence, not as absence, but as training. Because if you cannot sit with nothing, you cannot stay with anything. Chapter 3: Silence is not empty, it is training. Silence is not a break. It is a load. When the noise stops, the mind reveals its condition: restless, impatient, seeking input. That discomfort is not a problem. That discomfort is the point. If you can't sit still, you can't focus. Say it again. If you can't sit still, you can't focus. Most people avoid silence because it exposes weakness, not emotional weakness, attentional weakness. In silence, there is no stimulation to lean on, no novelty to escape into, only the task of staying. You have a choice. You can avoid silence and remain dependent on input, or you can use silence to rebuild control. That's the key. Modern habits fill every gap. Music while walking, videos while eating, notifications while thinking. This constant input trains the brain to expect relief. When relief disappears, discomfort spikes, and attention collapses. High performers understand this. They do not fear silence. They schedule it, because silence trains patience, and patience is the foundation of focus. Here is the first rule. Rule 1: treat silence as resistance. Silence is not relaxation. It is mental resistance training. When you remove input, the mind pushes back. Thoughts wander. Urges appear. Restlessness rises. This is the equivalent of muscle strain during physical training. Avoiding it weakens you. Staying with it strengthens you. If you can't sit still, you can't focus. High performers deliberately expose themselves to silence. Not all day, consistently. They understand that tolerance precedes control. You don't need their permission to do this. You need discipline, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 2: start with short, controlled silence. Do not dramatize this. You are not meditating for enlightenment. You are training attention. Begin with 10 minutes. No phone, no audio, no input. Sit, walk, stand. Do nothing except remain. The objective is not calm. The objective is containment. If the mind wanders, bring it back. Without judgment, without narrative. This repetition builds patience. That's the key. Most people fail because they seek immediate peace. Peace comes later. First comes friction. It's not about comfort, it's about discipline. Here is the next rule. Rule 3: silence must be predictable. Random silence does not train. Scheduled silence does. High performers choose a fixed time. Same window, same conditions. Morning works best because the mind is untrained at waking. Device-free mornings establish authority before the world intrudes. No scrolling, no messages, no news. Silence first, input later. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. If the first hour is silent, attention expands. If the first hour is noisy, attention fragments. You have a choice. Choose the order, which leads to the next rule. Rule 4: silence exposes avoidance patterns. In silence, the urge to escape becomes visible. You feel the impulse to check, to move, to distract. That impulse is data. It shows you where your attention breaks. It shows you what you have been avoiding. High performers do not suppress this urge. They observe it. Then they remain anyway. This is how patience is built. If you immediately escape, nothing changes. If you stay, the urge fades. Always. That fading is training. If you can't sit still, you can't focus. Say it again. Which brings us to an important clarification. Silence is not passivity. It is preparation. High performers use silence to sharpen direction, to clarify priorities, to stabilize attention before work begins. They do not confuse silence with laziness. They understand sequence. Silence first, output second. That's the key. Now, consider this example. A daily silent walk. No phone, no audio, no destination pressure. Just movement and awareness. This simple practice does more for attention than any productivity tool because it rebuilds tolerance for unoccupied time. When you can walk without stimulation, you can work without escape. The same applies to device-free mornings. When a mind learns it does not receive immediate input, it stops demanding it. Gradually, reliably, what you repeatedly practice, you reinforce. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Which brings us to the next rule. Rule 5. Silence must precede effort. Do not place silence after exhaustion. Place it before work. Silence after work feels like relief. Silence before work builds authority. High performers do not begin tasks in a reactive state. They stabilize first. 5 minutes of silence before effort improves focus more than caffeine, music, or motivation. Because attention needs grounding. It's not about energy, it's about control. Now understand this. Silence will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is temporary. The benefits are cumulative. Every silent session increases patience. Every patient moment extends focus. You are not failing when the mind wanders. You are training when you return. That's the key. Here is a simple system. Choose one silent practice. Walking, sitting, standing. Choose a fixed time, 10 to 20 minutes. Remove all input. Every day, do not evaluate how you feel. Only evaluate whether you stayed. Completion matters. What you repeatedly abandon, you weaken. What you repeatedly stay with, you strengthen. Silence trains staying, and staying is the root of focus. Most people never rebuild attention because they never rebuild patience. They want focus without tolerance. That is impossible. If you can't sit still, you can't focus. This chapter is not a suggestion. It is a requirement. Silence is the foundation upon which every other system rests. In the next chapter, we will remove the final illusion. The belief that focus comes from motivation. It does not. It comes from systems that remove choice entirely. Chapter 4. Build systems that remove choice. Choice is the enemy of focus. Not distraction, not laziness. Choice. Every decision taxes attention. Every option invites hesitation. Every open door weakens commitment. Focus does not improve when motivation increases. It improves when decisions disappear. Discipline is automation. Say it again. Discipline is automation. High performers do not wake up and decide how to work. They follow systems already decided. No debate, no negotiation. You have a choice. You can continue relying on moment-to-moment decisions, or you can build systems that operate without you. That's the key. Most people believe discipline is an internal trait. It is not. It is external structure. When discipline is internal, it fails under stress. When discipline is structural, it persists. High performers understand this. They do not trust their future selves. They design environments their future selves cannot sabotage. You don't need their permission to do this. You need to stop romanticizing choice. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. Fix the time before fixing the task. Unfixed time invites delay. Delay invites distraction. Distraction becomes habit. High performers work in fixed blocks. Same start time, same duration, every day, not because they feel ready, because the system says it is time. This removes the most dangerous decision of all, when to begin. Once that decision is gone, resistance drops. You don't argue with the clock. You obey it. Discipline is automation, which leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Ritualize the start. The mind responds to patterns. When a sequence repeats, resistance fades. High performers begin work the same way every time. Same location, same setup, same first action. This is not superstition. It is conditioning. The ritual tells the brain, now we focus. No explanation required. You have a choice. Create a ritual or rely on willpower. One works, one does not. That's the key. Here is the next rule. Rule 3. Lock the environment. An unlocked environment invites escape. An unlocked phone, an unlocked browser, an unlocked workspace. High performers lock environments before work begins. Not mentally, physically. Phones out of reach, apps blocked, tabs closed. Only essential tools available. This is not extreme. It is precise. If escape is easy, you will escape. If escape is difficult, focus holds. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. Say it again. High performers do not trust intentions. They trust constraints, which leads to the next rule. Rule 4. One block, one objective. Multiple objectives dilute attention. Diluted attention produces shallow work. High performers define one outcome per block. Not 5, not a list. One clear objective. When the block ends, they stop. Whether the work was easy or difficult. This trains containment. Stopping at a pre-decided endpoint is discipline. Stopping when bored is avoidance. It's not about productivity, it's about control. Discipline is automation. Now understand this. Systems fail when they are vague. Rules must be explicit. Work on this is not a system. From 9 to 10:30, write 600 words is a system. Clarity removes friction, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 5. Build systems that survive low energy. Motivation fluctuates. Energy drops. Mood shifts. Systems must function anyway. High performers assume low energy. They design systems that operate under fatigue. Short blocks. Clear tasks. Minimal setup. If your system only works when you feel good, it is not a system. It is a fantasy. You don't need their permission to design realistically. That's the key. Now consider this example. A fixed work block. Every weekday. Same time. Same location. The environment is locked. Phone outside the room. Internet restricted. Only work materials present. The ritual is consistent. Sit. Open the document. Begin. No decision is made. No motivation is summoned. The system runs. Over time, resistance fades. Focus stabilizes. Output compounds. This is not talent. It is design. Discipline is automation. Most people fail because they try to be disciplined in moments of temptation. High performers remove temptation entirely. You have a choice. Fight yourself daily, or build systems that make self-control unnecessary. Now understand the deeper principle. The brain conserves energy. Decision-making is expensive. When systems remove decisions, attention is freed. That attention can then be applied to the work itself. This is why focus improves when choices disappear. Not because you're trying harder, because you're deciding less. It's not about effort, it's about structure, which leads to the most important rule in this chapter. Rule 6. Never customize systems daily. Daily customization reintroduces choice. Choice reintroduces friction. High performers do not adjust systems based on mood. They review systems periodically. Then they execute them consistently. There's a difference. You have a choice. Tweak daily and fail quietly. Or commit and improve deliberately. That's the key. Here is a simple system you can apply immediately. Choose one daily work block. Fix the start time. Fix the duration. Choose one objective per block. Define completion clearly. Design a start ritual. Same steps. Every time, lock the environment. Remove exits. Then repeat. Do not evaluate how you feel. Only evaluate whether the system ran. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Systems are repetitions made permanent. Now listen carefully. Freedom does not come from endless choice. It comes from constraint. When choice is removed, focus expands. When focus expands, work deepens. When work deepens, progress becomes inevitable. You don't need their permission to simplify. You need to stop confusing freedom with chaos. Discipline is automation. This chapter is not about becoming rigid. It is about becoming reliable. Reliable focus beats occasional intensity every time. In the next chapter, we will address the missing layer beneath systems. Meaning, because even the best systems fail when the work itself lacks personal significance. And without a reason to stay, no structure will hold forever. Chapter 5. Short focus is a symptom, not the disease. A short attention span is not the core problem. It is the signal. Focus collapses for a reason. Not randomly. Not mysteriously. Attention fails when the mind does not understand why it should stay. The mind protects what it understands. Say it again. The mind protects what it understands. When work feels meaningless, attention withdraws. When effort feels disconnected from purpose, the brain looks for escape. Not out of rebellion, out of efficiency. You have a choice. You can treat short focus as a flaw, or you can diagnose what it is pointing to. That's the key. Most people try to force focus on a work they do not respect. They demand discipline without direction. That never lasts. Systems can hold behavior temporarily, meaning holds it permanently. High performers understand this. They do not ask, "How do I focus longer?" They ask, "Why does this matter enough to stay?" Because attention follows value. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. If you cannot explain why the task matters, you will not stay with it. Vague reasons produce weak focus. External pressure produces shallow compliance. I should do this is not meaning. This moves me towards something I chose is meaning. The mind protects what it understands. High performers clarify the reason before they begin, not philosophically, practically. They connect the task to a larger direction, skill development, long-term autonomy, craft mastery, future leverage. When the connection is clear, resistance drops. You don't need their permission to choose meaning. You need to stop outsourcing it, which leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Meaning must be personal, not borrowed. Borrowed meaning does not hold under strain. External expectations collapse under discomfort. Working to impress others. Working to avoid criticism. Working to meet vague standards. All of this fails when effort increases. High performers anchor work to internal reasons. Reasons that remain when no one is watching. They do not ask, "How will this look?" They ask, "What does this build?" That's the key. When the reason is internal, attention stabilizes. When the reason is external, attention flickers. The mind protects what it understands. Which brings us to the next rule. Rule 3. Shrink meaning to the task in front of you. Meaning does not have to be dramatic. It has to be immediate. I'm doing this to improve my thinking. I'm doing this to sharpen my skill. I'm doing this to become someone who finishes. These are sufficient. High performers do not rely on distant outcomes alone. They attach meaning to the act itself. The task becomes training, not just production. When work is training, attention stays longer. It's not about passion, it's about purpose. Now understand this. Attention collapses fastest on tasks you do not respect. If you secretly believe the work is pointless, your focus will reflect that belief. The mind does not lie, which leads to an uncomfortable rule. Rule 4. Eliminate work you cannot justify. Not all tasks deserve your attention. Some persist only because of habit or avoidance. High performers audit their work. They remove tasks that do not align with any meaningful outcome. This simplifies focus dramatically. Fewer meaningless tasks, fewer attention failures. You have a choice. Continue scattering attention across low-value work, or protect it by aligning effort with intention. That's the key. Now consider the example. You sit down to work. Focus fades quickly. Instead of forcing yourself, you pause. You ask one question. Why does this matter? Not abstractly. Specifically. You write the answer in one sentence. This matters because it builds X. This matters because it removes Y. This matters because it prepares me for Z. The effect is immediate. Attention stabilizes. Resistance softens. Because the mind now understands what it is protecting. The mind protects what it understands. Say it again. This is not motivation. It is alignment. Which brings us to the next rule. Rule 5. Revisit meaning at the moment of resistance. Meaning is not a one-time decision. It must be refreshed when resistance appears. High performers do this silently. Quickly. They do not dramatize. They remind. This is training. This compounds. This matters to me. Then they continue. It's not about emotion. It's about clarity. Now listen carefully. Lack of meaning creates fragile focus. Fragile focus creates quitting. Quitting reinforces doubt. The cycle continues. Meaning breaks the cycle. When the reason is clear, staying becomes logical. You don't need their permission to choose work that matters. You need to stop confusing obligation with purpose, which leads to the most important rule in this chapter. Rule 6. Identity sustains meaning. The strongest meaning is identity-based. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who trains attention. I am someone who does difficult things quietly. When work aligns with identity, focus deepens naturally. High performers do not rely on tasks alone. They rely on who they are becoming. Every task becomes evidence. That's the key. Short focus is not the disease. It is the symptom. The disease is misalignment between effort and meaning. Fix the alignment. Focus follows. Now understand the sequence. Systems remove distraction. Silence builds patience. Meaning gives attention a reason to stay. These layers work together. Without meaning, systems feel oppressive. With meaning, systems feel supportive. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. And repetition only survives when it matters. Here is a simple system. Before each work block, write one sentence. Why this task matters. How it connects to who you are becoming. Read it once. Then begin. Do not overthink. Do not elaborate. Clarity is enough. Evaluate focus after completion, not during. What you repeatedly stay with, you strengthen. The mind protects what it understands. This chapter is not about finding passion. It is about restoring logic to effort. Effort without meaning feels heavy. Effort with meaning feels grounded. In the next chapter, we will shift from meaning to mechanics. From why you stay to how you stay longer. Because depth must be trained before duration can expand. Chapter 6. Train depth before duration. Endurance is not the starting point. Depth is, not the other way around. Most people fail because they try to focus longer before they know how to focus at all. They schedule 4-hour blocks and then collapse after 20 minutes. This is predictable. It is not weakness. It is untrained depth. Depth comes before endurance. Say it again. Depth comes before endurance. Attention is a skill. It is not a trait. It grows through repeated exposure to sustained, challenging tasks. Not through longer time alone. Long time without depth is wasted effort. High performers understand this. They start small. They master one task fully before moving on to the next. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. Complete before extending. Every task has a natural endpoint. Finish it fully, even if it is small, even if it is uncomfortable. Completion signals to the brain, you can stay, you can endure. Half-done tasks teach quitting. Full completion teaches capacity. You don't need their permission to start small. You need to obey the principle, which leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Increase challenge gradually. Once you can finish small, demanding tasks reliably, add complexity. Not duration first. Complexity first. Difficulty first. Solve harder problems. Write deeper content. Analyze longer passages. Depth trains attention muscles. Endurance trains stamina. Muscles must exist before stamina grows. Most people invert this. They extend time without increasing intensity. They fail. Then they blame themselves. It's not about weakness. It's about structure. High performers sequence growth. Depth first. Duration second. Here is the next rule. Rule 3. Resist the temptation to multitask for efficiency. Depth requires focus on one thing. No overlapping tasks. No partial attention. Multitasking produces shallow completion. Shallow completion teaches the brain to quit early. You want the opposite. Complete one demanding task fully. That is depth. That is training. You have a choice. You can scatter attention for hours, or concentrate on one meaningful task for minutes. Depth always wins. Which brings us to the next rule. Rule 4. Use short, repeatable blocks to condition attention. Start with manageable periods. 20 minutes. 30 minutes. Make them fully demanding. Complete the task. End the block. Do not extend artificially. Do not rush. Do not shortcut completion. When repeated daily, these blocks strengthen the neural pathways for sustained focus. Depth compounds faster than duration. High performers practice in this way. They accumulate minutes of fully concentrated work. The long sessions come naturally later. That's the key. Now consider this example. Writing 300 words in full attention. No devices. No distractions. Every sentence deliberate. This teaches staying. Every small block rewires the brain. Before long blocks arrive, the mind knows how to remain engaged. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Which brings us to the next rule. Rule 5. Remove all early exits. A short, fully complete task is meaningless if the brain anticipates escape. No shortcuts. No checking your phone. No partial work. The nervous system must experience completion without interruption. That is training. That is depth. You have a choice. Protect the block fully, or teach your brain to quit. That's the key. Depth also trains confidence. Confidence trains endurance. Once the brain learns it can finish small tasks, it will attempt longer ones without fear. High performers layer depth over time. They do not force long hours immediately. They accumulate mastery one task at a time. This is a system. Depth first. Duration second. Completion every step. Short blocks. Demanding content. No distraction. Full completion. Repeat daily. The mind adapts. Patience grows. Endurance follows naturally. Now understand the sequence. Depth builds control. Control builds stamina. Stamina allows long focus sessions. If you skip depth, long sessions fail. Guaranteed. You don't need motivation. You need repetition. You need structure. You need obedience. High performers obey depth. They trust the principle. They follow it consistently. Before attempting a 4-hour focus block, master 30 minutes at full depth. Before attempting a full workday, master an hour at full intensity. Every small, demanding task compounds. Every completion rewires the brain. Every repetition builds foundation. Discipline is not a sprint. Discipline is a sequence. Depth first. Duration second. Completion every step. You have a choice. You can chase long hours prematurely, or you can master depth and let duration arrive naturally. That's the key. In the next chapter, we will confront boredom directly, the uncomfortable state you have been avoiding, because learning to stay with boredom is the final gateway to to sustained attention. Chapter 7. Boredom is the gateway to mastery. Boredom is not a problem. It is a signal. It is a tool. Most people flee boredom the moment it appears. They scroll. They switch tasks. They seek relief. This is why attention collapses. Not because the mind is weak, because it has been trained to escape discomfort. Boredom is resistance leaving the body. Say it again. Boredom is resistance leaving the body. Every time you avoid it, you reinforce escape. Every time you endure it, you reinforce control. The mind adapts. The nervous system learns. Tolerance grows. You have a choice. You can flee the dullness, or you can stay and train. That's the key. High performers embrace boredom, not recklessly, deliberately, as training. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. Treat boring tasks as mental resistance training. If the task is dull, that is where attention strengthens. If the task is easy, that is where endurance stagnates. Completing a dull task fully rewires the brain. It teaches patience. It teaches staying. It teaches presence. No shortcuts. No distractions. No devices. You don't need their permission to stay. You need discipline, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 2. Do not chase novelty during work. Novelty is a trap. Every ping, every pop, every new stimulus teaches the brain to escape. High performers limit novelty during focus blocks. No news, no messages, no random entertainment. The task itself must be sufficient. The mind must sit with it. That is where strength grows. Boredom is resistance leaving the body. Say it again. Here is the next rule. Rule 3. Observe restlessness without reacting. During boredom, the mind will protest. Thoughts will wander. Urges to escape will rise. This is normal. It is the training. High performers do not suppress these urges. They notice them. Then they return to the task. Each return is a repetition. Each repetition strengthens focus. You have a choice. React to discomfort or train through it. That's the key. Rule 4. Layer boredom into daily practice. Boredom should not be incidental. It should be scheduled. Device-free walks. Manual, repetitive tasks. Tasks with no external stimulation. Start small. 5 or 10 minutes. Then increase. Each session teaches the mind that staying is safe. Each session trains the nervous system for long attention spans. High performers practice this consistently. It is not entertaining. It is training. That is the difference. Rule 5. Use boredom to measure growth. The moment boredom arises, notice your reaction. Do you escape? Do you stay? Your ability to remain indicates attention capacity. It is a simple metric, not motivational. Practical. When you resist escape, you grow stronger. When you flee, you weaken. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Every tolerated dull moment compounds. Every repeated endurance builds mastery. High performers do not avoid monotony. They organize it. They schedule it. They complete it. Now understand this. Boredom is not punishment. It is a gateway. It is the threshold between shallow attention and deep mastery. Avoid it, and your mind stays weak. Enter it, and your control expands. Your environment trains you more than your intentions. Boredom is the environment. Endurance is the outcome. Here is a simple system. Select one dull task. Set a fixed time. No distractions. Complete it fully. Notice restlessness. Return. Repeat. Do this daily. Gradually increase duration or difficulty. Focus grows. Tolerance grows. Control grows. Boredom is resistance leaving the body. Say it again. Boredom is resistance leaving the body. Most people never rebuild attention because they flee the discomfort of nothingness. High performers sit with it. They use it. They train with it. The chapter is not advice. It is a requirement. Next, we will address the structural protection of your first hour. How the start of your day can set the tone for the mind, making focus inevitable before the world begins to demand it. Chapter 8. Protect the first hour of your day. The first hour of your day is not ordinary. It is decisive. It sets the tone for everything that follows. The mind is most programmable when it wakes. Say it again. The mind is most programmable when it wakes. Every morning, the brain is untrained, plastic, susceptible, easily directed toward discipline or distraction. How you start is how you train. Say it again. How you start is how you train. Most people waste this hour. They scroll. They check messages. They consume before producing. This conditions the brain to seek input first, not output, not control. Consumption becomes the default. You have a choice. You can begin reactively, letting the world dictate your focus. Or you can begin intentionally, training the mind to produce first. That's the key. High performers protect this hour. Not occasionally. Every day. No exceptions. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. No input until output. Devices off. Notifications silenced. News ignored. Produce before consuming. Right? Plan. Think. Move. The brain responds immediately. Productivity trains the mind. Consumption trains the mind. Which do you want? How you start is how you train. That leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Fix the first hour routine. High performers do not improvise. They follow a ritual. Same start time, same sequence, same actions. The ritual reduces choice, reduces friction, removes debate. Discipline is automation. Say it again. Discipline is automation. You don't need permission to protect this hour. You need structure. Here is the next rule. Rule 3. Include one demanding action. The first hour is not for comfort. It is for training. Write a paragraph. Solve a problem. Complete a small, challenging task. This primes attention. Focus is built before distraction enters. High performers do not wait for motivation. They follow the system. Every day. That's the key. Rule 4. Avoid multitasking entirely. Even small distractions damage the first hour. Notifications, background apps, even casual messages fragment attention. Protect the block fully. One task at a time. Full engagement. Completion builds momentum. Momentum sets the tone for the day. Distraction sets the tone for collapse. You have a choice. Every morning, choose control. Rule 5. Reflect and plan briefly. High performers do not drift. They pause for a moment. 1 to 2 minutes. Clarify priorities. Set the first intention. This reinforces meaning. The mind now understands what it is protecting. Attention follows structure. Now understand the principle. Early effort compounds. Late effort is fragmented. The first hour trains the rest of the day. No ritual. No preparation. No protection. Attention drifts. Protected. Structured. Disciplined. Attention strengthens. Here is a simple system to apply immediately. Wake at a fixed time. Do not touch devices. Follow a predetermined sequence. Include one demanding action. Reflect and plan. Every day. Repeat. How you start is how you train. The first hour is your lever. It determines whether focus is incidental or inevitable. You don't need motivation. You need a system. You need repetition. You need obedience. The chapter is not a suggestion. It is a requirement. Next, we will examine measurement. How to track completion, not intensity. Because without evaluation, attention cannot grow systematically. Chapter 9. Measure progress in completion, not intensity. Focus is not measured by how hard you try. It is measured by what you finish. Emotional effort, willpower, or motivation cannot quantify progress. They fluctuate. They deceive. They fail under stress. Completion is clarity. Say it again. Completion is clarity. Most people confuse busyness with progress. They check boxes, jump between tasks, and feel productive. But nothing is fully done. Attention fragments. Confidence erodes. You have a choice. You can chase the illusion of effort, or you can track the reality of completion. That's the key. High performers understand this principle. They measure what ends, not how it feels. They judge the mind by results, not by struggle. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. Define done before starting. Every task must have a clear endpoint. Not vague goals, not partial ideas. Work on the report is incomplete. Finish sections A and B with charts by 10 a.m. is complete. Completion signals success to the brain. Partial effort signals ambiguity. Ambiguity trains distraction. You don't need their permission to define done. You need clarity, which leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Track finished work daily. High performers maintain a record of completion. Checklists, logs, or journals. Each completed task reinforces confidence. Each visible completion strengthens attention loops. Every repetition compounds. It is not about emotion. It is about evidence. Completion is clarity. Here is the next rule. Rule 3. Ignore intensity, prioritize consistency. Working frantically for hours produces inconsistent outcomes. Short, fully completed tasks performed consistently produce attention endurance. Intensity is tempting. It feels impressive. It rarely builds sustained focus. High performers repeat small, complete actions. They rely on rhythm, not bursts. They rely on structure, not emotion. That's the key. Rule 4. Review but do not judge. Measurement is observation, not criticism, not reward. High performers note completion. Adjust systems if patterns emerge. Do not blame yourself for past failures. The mind learns from evidence, not guilt. Completion teaches discipline. Discipline automates focus. Focus compounds progress, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 5. Break large tasks into measurable units. Big projects overwhelm attention. Unfinished work breeds avoidance. High performers divide tasks into units they can finish. Each completed unit reinforces momentum. Each unit strengthens neural pathways for sustained attention. Completion is clarity. Repeat daily. Measure often. Track finished units. Ignore intensity. Prioritize structure. Now understand this. The brain responds to what is concrete. Completed work is concrete. Struggle and effort are abstract. High performers reward completion, not emotion. This is the difference between shallow activity and deep work. You have a choice. Chase feelings of effort or enforce completion. That's the key. Here is a simple system to apply immediately. Define done before each task. Log every completed task. Break large work into measurable units. Track completion daily. Ignore emotion or intensity. Repeat. Completion compounds attention. Completion trains patience. Completion creates mastery. Discipline is automation. Automation produces results. Results reinforce focus. Completion is clarity. In the next chapter, we will address identity. How becoming someone who finishes transforms your attention, your work, and ultimately your life. Because the person who finishes does not negotiate with distraction. Chapter 10. Become someone who finishes. Habits alone do not guarantee sustained attention. They fade under stress, fatigue, and distraction. Identity endures. Focused people finish. Say it again. Focused people finish. When you see yourself as someone who completes, your behavior aligns automatically. You do not negotiate with distraction. You do not debate effort. You stay. You persist. You finish. Most people rely on motivation or willpower. Both are temporary. Both are unreliable. Identity is permanent. It sets the rules your mind follows when systems weaken, when energy drops, when boredom rises. Here is the first rule. Rule 1. Internalize your identity as a finisher. Do not think, I try to focus. Think, I finish. Every task, no matter how small, becomes a test of who you are. Completion is proof of identity. Every finished task reinforces the self-concept. You don't need permission. You don't need motivation. You need consistency and repetition, which leads to the next rule. Rule 2. Act like a finisher in small ways. Identity grows through repeated action. Complete small tasks fully. Finish minor obligations. Respond completely to emails. Close tabs after use. These small completions train the nervous system. They make finishing automatic. They build the neural habit of persistence. Focus people finish. Here is the next rule. Rule 3. Treat difficulty as a test, not a threat. Challenges reveal identity. Do not avoid them. Do not compromise. A finisher sees hard work as an opportunity to demonstrate self-definition. Discomfort becomes evidence, not punishment, not resistance. Proof. Every return task, every persisted block reinforces your identity. The mind learns who it belongs to, which brings us to the next rule. Rule 4. Let identity drive systems, not the other way around. Systems are tools. Identity is the engine. When habits falter, identity maintains focus. When energy drops, identity holds attention. When distraction calls, identity says no. High performers understand this. They design systems to support who they are becoming. They embody their discipline, not occasionally, consistently. Focus people finish. Now understand this. You don't need extreme motivation. You don't need constant reinforcement. You need to see yourself as someone who finishes. The moment you adopt that identity, your actions follow. Your attention stabilizes. Your work deepens. Your life shifts. Here is a simple system. Every morning, remind yourself, I am someone who finishes. Attach it to your first task. Review after each work block. Repeat daily. Identity compounds attention. Identity compounds completion. Identity compounds mastery. Focus people finish. Say it one last time. Focus people finish. You have trained attention. You have built patience. You have created systems. You have anchored meaning. You have endured boredom. You have measured completion. And now, you are a finisher. This is not temporary. This is who you are becoming. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. And repetition builds identity. Identity locks in mastery. Take action now. Start today. Protect your first hour. Complete your tasks. Endure the discomfort. Become the person who finishes every time. If you found this training valuable, subscribe now. Join the channel to continue building systems, discipline, and mastery daily. Stay consistent. Stay focused. Stay unstoppable.